All right, guys, we're working on Khan Academy here, and we're doing graph from slope-intercept form. And basically, you're going to be given an equation, and you're going to use that equation, and then you're going to use it to make a graph. All right, you're gonna graph. And I know we're used to using things like Desmos where it does it all for us, but we also need to know how do you graph it by hand, a little more manually, where you have to be in charge of things. And so the key here is you need to identify slope-intercept form, right? You need to identify the slope and the y-intercept. So the slope will always be attached to the variable, all right? No matter how it's written, the number that's attached to the variable, whether it be negative, positive, whatever it is, that is the slope. The number that is not attached to a variable, it's a constant, that is your y value for your y-intercept. All right, so in this case, we know our y-intercept is going to be having a y value of -9, and our slope is 4. In order for us to graph, you need to have some point somewhere on the graph that you know for a fact where it's going to go. And so we're lucky in that we know that this number right here is the y value of the y-intercept. And so it's on the y-axis at -9. So let me go ahead and kind of get this cleared up a little bit. Get rid of those. So we know that at -9 on the y-axis, there is a point there. So that's one of the points. That's our starting point for graphing, all right? It has to intersect through that. And the reason that makes sense is that the value of x, if you were to think about it, it's 1 here, it's -1 on that side. On the y-axis, it is 0. So if I plugged a 0 in for x, I'd get 0 times 4, which is 0, and you end up with y equals -9. So we know it's 0 on the x-axis, -9 on the y-axis. That's the reasoning for why we're able to point that or plot that point there. From there, once you have your starting point, then you can plot using your slope, plot another point. It's a slope of 4. So that means that the rise over run, or the change in y over change in x, is 4/1. So we're going to go up 4, and then we're going to go right 1. So if I go up, well, 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1, it'll take me to this point right here. Before I click check, I'm just going to double check my work. -9 is the y-intercept. Boom. 4 is the slope. Up 1, 2, 3, 4, right 1. That's 4/1. We're good to go. And we'll just keep moving here. I'll do 4 of these problems with you guys, and then I think you'll get it. You'll get it, and it'll make sense. All right, we have this equation: -3/2 x minus 3. Our y-intercept is the y value of the y-intercept is -3, and the slope is -3/2. So first, plot your first point that you know for sure where it's at, and that is the y-intercept, which is at 0, -3. That's the y-intercept right there. So we got that out of the way. Now let's take a look at the slope. It's negative, so it's going down. And the change in y is 3. The change in x is 2. This is the one thing that I think is easiest for us to go with here is I always make the negative go with the numerator, the y value. The x value is always going from left to right. Always go from left to right. The negative tells you to go down. If it's positive, it tells you to go up. So in this case, I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, and go right 1, 2. So it's going to go through this point right here. Double check that again. We're at -3 on the y-axis. The slope is -3/2. So it's -3. We're going to go down 3. 1, 2, 3. 2 in the denominator. We're going to go right 2. 1, 2. There is our first. There's our second answer, actually. Here we go. We got y equals 3/4 x plus 2. All right, so we have this plus 2 here. That's going to be our y-intercept. In this case, it's positive, so it's going to be above the x-axis. It's going to be at 2 on the y-axis. And our slope is 3/4. So I'm going to plot a point at 2 on the y-axis. And the slope is positive, so it's going to go up 3. 1, 2, 3. And then right 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is very similar to just working with slope by itself. Now you're just being given the starting point in a different way. You're being given it by reading an equation. This one's a little different, and I'm happy that we got one like this. Y equals x plus 4. There's your y-intercept. So you know you have a point at 4. And this is where I think a lot of students get confused. Ooh, what's the slope? And the slope, we as mathematicians, we're lazy. We don't ever write 1x, and we don't ever write negative 1x. We're lazy. We just write x, or we write negative x. So if you ever see an x by itself, or a letter, a variable, it's implied that there's a 1 in front of it. It's implied, if it's negative x, that it's negative 1x. So when you see something like this, you know that this is actually a slope of 1, which is a rise of 1 and a run of 1. So your change in y is going up 1, and your change in x is going to the right 1. And that would be the line right there. Every now and then you'll see those pop up where you have a slope of 1 or slope of negative 1, and it may confuse you at first, but it is what it is. If all else fails and you really do not know what to do, you can always copy it, open another tab, go to Desmos, graph it, see what it looks like, and then kind of use that information to compare and kind of come back. All right, guys, I think this is pretty straightforward, and you guys will do well on it. If you have any questions, let me know.